Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I am Justin, the poet,
I'm Nico, and I'm a teacher in the next county over who heard about all this shit, and oof.
I'm Dan, the music teacher.
and we are here to discuss Carrie, the 1976 version. So this was directed by Brian De Palma, starring Sissy Spacek as Carrie White, Piper Laurie as Margaret White, Amy Irving as Sue Snell, William Catt as Tommy Ross, and Betty Buckley as Miss Collins. We've got a lot of, it's not alliteration. What is it? Consonants?
No, it's alliteration.
Okay.
Yeah. You should know, poet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Christ.
I'm a poet and I didn't know it.
Oh,
The answer. Anyways, this movie opens with the film's titular character, Carrie White. She's in the locker room after a PE session. While taking a shower, she gets her first ever period. The other girls in the locker room begin to torment her until Miss Collins, the PE teacher, begins to comfort her. She gets sent home early, and this is when we see our first real, well, except for one small scene before, our first real glance of Carrie's telekinesis. She can move things with her mind. She kind of like pushes over a kid on a bicycle, which sounds cruel, but he was making fun of her.
It was pretty fucking funny, if I'm honest.
It was pretty funny. So, Dan, what happens after that?
so once Carrie gets back to her house, we see that she has an extremely religious mother that resents anything to do with sexuality. Her mother never explained to her what a period was and forces Carrie to read Bible verses telling her that she has sinned. So Carrie goes to her room where she shatters and then puts her mirror back together using her psychic powers.
She shatters the mirror, not just she herself
She
shatters.
shat herself.
She fractures into the shards of the Chaos Emeralds.
Oof.
So, Nico, I mean, those girls back in the PE class can't just get away with tormenting Carrie, though, right?
Well, not yet. As punishment for humiliating Carrie, the rest of the girls in her class are sentenced to a week's worth of hour-long workout sessions, which, like,
I see.
all right, that's not that bad. Chris, though, one of the girls, is infuriated, and she was the last person in the first scene to be just really mean and evil to her before she was in the shower. She was kind of like the leader of the pack, I guess you could say.
Main tormentor.
Yeah. So she's infuriated by this because I guess she just really fucking hates fitness. And oh, we once again buried the lead here, lads. As punishment, they had to do these, and if they didn't show up, they didn't go to prom. And Chris was pissed off at all of that. And Chris decides to become a just ridiculous diva about it, and Miss Collins gives her justly one powerful slap. The rest of the girls keep working out, but Chris starts plotting something sinister.
That she does. However, on the other side, we have Sue. Now, she's a classmate that actually legitimately feels bad for Carrie. So she asks her boyfriend, Tommy, if he can take Carrie to the prom, kind of in the hopes that it'd provide at least one happy moment or memory for Carrie. At first, Carrie's against it, but she eventually gives in and decides to go with Tommy to the prom. Now, Carrie's mother, obviously, is very much against it. But with her telekinetic powers and also kind of just learning more and being more comfortable with herself, Carrie starts to stand up for herself, and she informs her mother that she is going to the prom. But, I mean, something is brewing. Nico, what is that?
It's pig blood, unfortunately. You hate to see it. Erstwhile, Chris and her boyfriend go to a pig farm and slaughter some swine and drain their blood, which just like, my God, they went from 0 to 100 real quick here. The day of prom arrives, and Chris and her friends rig the prom king and queen competition so that they will know and for sure have it that Carrie wins. In addition, they rig a bucket of pig's blood, which they obtained from the aforementioned slaughtered swine, above the stage, and they wait for Carrie to get on. Once she does, they dump the blood on her, which causes Carrie to have a really bad anxiety attack. Completely understandable, to be frank. And Tommy's knocked out by this too, from the actual bucket of blood falling and hitting his head.
That was kind of funny.
It is also kind of funny.
So
honest.
Carrie basically kind of flips out and she uses her telekinesis to lock all the doors in the gym. She then uses things that are in the gym, like a hose, for example, to start attacking the people. She electrifies some people with the water and some electrical equipment, and she crushes others. She also, due to all her, just shenanigans, causes the gym to catch on fire, and she leaves. Chris and her boyfriend try to run Carrie over with a car, which is kind of extreme, but she uses her telekinesis to kind of, pelt the car away, and it explodes. So, nope, no more Chris in this movie. Dan, what happens after that?
Or John Travolta.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, shit. Well, not really burying the lead, but John Travolta was Billy in this movie. Chris's boyfriend.
Yeah. But anyways, Carrie goes home and takes a bath to wash off all of the pig's blood that was on her. And she tells her mother that the mother was right, that she shouldn't have gone and the kids were just going to pick on her. So her mother ends up actually trying to kill Carrie because her mother thinks that Carrie is like devil reincarnate because she has these psychic powers. But Carrie defends herself and ends up killing her mother. Distraught, Carrie causes the house to collapse and catch fire. And Carrie carries her mother's body into the prayer closet, and the house collapses on them both. Meanwhile, Sue, or later on, there's a short time skip, we assume anyways. Sue, the girl who actually felt bad for Carrie and was trying to do good by her, is left extremely traumatized by the night's events, and she dreams of visiting Carrie's demolished house and sort of honoring the grave of Carrie, sort of.
Yeah. They do have a little kind of gotcha moment where Carrie's hand reaches out of kind of like a grave type scenario and grabs her, but then she wakes up from the dream. And it's kind of where the movie ends. All right, so let's go ahead now and just let's dig into some of those audio and visuals. So, Dan, in terms of the audio of this movie, where would you put it?
I actually liked it quite a bit, to be honest. I liked whenever she used her powers, there was some like sort of orchestral stabs and sort of audio symbolism that, her powers are being used.
Kind of like audio branding almost.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, a little thematic, I
Like
guess.
making the tropes of the genre with a
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the first movie to do that. Certainly probably isn't, but
No, definitely
it was like really well done in this case for what it's worth.
Yeah. So one interesting thing about the score was supposed to be done by Bernard Herrmann, who was actually previously worked with director De Palma on the film Obsession. So he was supposed to score the film, but he passed away in December before the film was completed. So the four-note violin theme from the Psycho film, which Herrmann actually composed, is also used in this film. I assume to be sort of like a little like sort of tribute to him.
That makes sense. That's actually morbidly sweet.
Yeah.
I was going to say one piece of audio that perhaps made me laugh a little hard is there's a montage towards the end of the movie where the guys are getting ready for prom and they're putting on tuxedos. There's a odd moment where they speed up.
I forgot about that.
They speed up the sound. Imagine fast forwarding a VHS tape. That's basically what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure why they did it because they only ever do it right there in that one scene.
It's like you were going to hear a record scratch and go, yep, that's me. Bet you're wondering how I got here.
Yeah, pretty much.
It would have made more sense to me if it happened like longer, because it seemed like it was supposed to be like you kind of mentioned, like a montage, because that scene they start sort of joking around while trying on tuxedos and things, and then that little sped up part I assume was supposed to be just showing them joking around for like a while, but they just didn't want to take that long, I guess. But then it only happens for like 3 seconds or something,
Yeah.
and then they keep going back to normal time to keep joking about that.
Yeah, like what the fuck?
I would have rather it have lasted like 5 seconds and then cut scene. That would have made more sense to me than 2 or 3 seconds and then more banter. Like I don't know, it was kind of weird.
Now, Nico, I'm going to go ahead and switch gears a little bit and talk to you about the visuals in this movie. We got to talk about the pig's blood. What was your thought when it fell on Carrie and that whole scene?
I felt for Carrie so much. I felt so bad for her in the moment and also just throughout. And just seeing it fall on her and see her affect go ghostly white and just in shock, while the rest of her is literally covered in pig's blood, just a bucket full of it. It's I feel that terror. I could see that through how she was looking and just the design of it. I don't know what they actually used. I really fucking hope it wasn't actual pig's blood.
I feel like that's something worth looking up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check.
it looked really well done. And that is one of the things that I think actually holds up the best in the movie is that particular scene. We feel the horror aspect of Carrie just being completely turned into a pariah at that point and feeling all of that revulsion and terror in front of her.
So, I guess on a positive note, the substance was actually Caro syrup and food coloring
Okay.
that was poured onto her. And apparently, they chose that because the hot lights, kind of, all the stage lights and stuff
Yeah.
that were shining on her, caused it to stick to her skin.
That makes sense. That's really clever, actually. That must suck
cool.
to get out of, though.
I thought it was a really cool visual personally, especially when we kind of see from Carrie's perspective. You hear her mother saying they're all going to laugh at you. And then, even though the people in the crowd actually aren't laughing at her,
Yeah.
they're all kind of shocked. But she just immediately jumps to that.
One of the girls from the original group of divas does start to
Yeah.
laugh.
Yeah,
And tries to get more people in, but they don't.
they don't. Like, the majority of the people don't. But, like, Carrie, she kind of immediately jumps to everyone laughing at her, which kind of triggers her whole rage attack
Yeah.
that she does.
'Cause, I mean, she was literally seeing red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, right when that's happening, I thought it was kind of cool, and to take it back to both visual and audio, I guess, at this point, when she's kind of in that anxiety attack kind of thing, there's a cool scene because we kind of see from her perspective, and there's sort of all this trippy stuff going on visually, and then we kind of hear her memories of people telling her, either making fun of her or telling her she's not good at something or whatever, and it kind of forms this rhythmic sort of collage of things of sound, and it was actually really really cool, I thought, because they would just kind of repeat the phrases. So I can't remember what they said, but oh, you're not good enough, oh, you're not good enough, and then they kind of kept adding on to that, and it was actually kind of cool, I thought.
Something I'll say about that is just really quickly, that is indicative of some flare-ups for PTSD and panic attacks and stuff. So that was actually really well done that they represented that part of what she was feeling.
I think as well, the rest of the visuals were pretty good. I didn't have any major complaints. I think we're going to talk about one visual in just a little bit here, but
Well, hold on. The music during the scene where they were doing the fucking jumping jacks was so fucking wacky. We can't just scroll past that.
I thought that was classic. Listen, I thought that was classic personally.
Bro, that sounded like if you were playing Sonic Adventure 1 and you're in the Chow Garden and then suddenly Insane Clown Posse decided to start writing the soundtrack instead.
Listen,
Wow.
consider back when we were in high school, remember the pacer test?
Yeah.
And the music that would play during the pacer test?
Yeah, it wasn't that fucking bad.
But that was us in the year 20XX.
20, I was just gonna say that.
20XX. the Reploids have spawned.
So who knows, back in the 70s, they were probably jamming out to I don't know, stuff from way back in the day.
I mean, certainly. It's just so tonally incongruous from the rest of the film.
Listen, I give it a pass personally. I think the rest of the visuals in the movie, though, I liked, as I was saying. I really do think that they got all the shots they needed to, particularly one of Saint Sebastian, which Dan will give us some enlightenment on in a little bit. But I liked it. Dan, thoughts?
Yeah, I liked it too. It got experimental with a lot of the shots too, which I thought was kind of cool. Sometimes
Definitely
I
agree.
didn't love them all the time, but it was cool to see different angles. And the shot where they're at prom where Carrie and Tommy are dancing, and Carrie and Tom are spinning in one direction, but the camera is kind of spinning around them in a different direction. I thought was kind of cool for a good 2 minutes or something maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really interesting, and a lot of that kind of experimentation, I don't know, like I said, I don't know that I loved it, but I did love the idea of it at least. And I don't think any of it was bad. It just wasn't quite as cool as it could have been maybe, but I really, really liked the idea of it.
So, as I said before, the introduction to this movie takes place in kind of a girls' locker room after a PE session. But Nico, there's a little bit more to that. What is it?
Yeah, it's watching that just made me feel 11 different kinds of uncomfortable and skeezy. Like, particularly as avid listeners will remember, I'm a teacher, and the thought of just knowing that this is happening, but like seeing it happening and just it's complete cognitive dissonance in the most uncomfortable way. But all of that to say, Brian De Palma, the director, had just a complete excess of nudity, particularly given that these, are cast as high schoolers. Like that, I don't like that. I know that there's the trend for horror in the 70s be like, oh, gotta be scary, gotta flash a titty or something like that. But it felt really unnecessary to the entire tone of the movie.
Immediately after that as well, there was like one ass shot. I forget whose ass it was, but
It was
whoever it was
Carrie.
wearing
It
pink
was
pants.
Carrie.
Was it Carrie?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like one straight ass shot for like a solid like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But I think more so to your point, Nico, I mean, far be it from me to criticize some titty in a horror movie, but I think that to me, what kind of made me uncomfortable with it, like you said, is the fact that these are meant to be portraying high school students.
Yeah.
I mean, Carrie supposedly just got her first period, which I'm on the whole kind of like, yikes. You know, I feel like if it was, let me put it like
I mean,
this.
the period part isn't a bad thing. It's just
No. But I mean, like, what that signifies, like how young she would be.
Oh yeah.
For
And given her level of trauma and neglect
Yeah.
and not knowing about ad stuff.
yeah, like the whole thing just kind of like when I saw it, and I think it was two levels of cognitive dissonance because the first one was, if this is meant to be a group of high schoolers, why would you do that? There's no real need to do that. And
Kids can suck, but no one's that shitty.
well, I'm talking strictly about the nudity.
Oh, well, also that, yes.
I'm talking about like there's no reason for you to have this whole kind of, I mean, it lasts a little bit of time where everyone's over here just like straight up naked.
Yeah.
I feel again, if this was supposed to be like full grown adults,
Like at a college, maybe?
yeah,
But
if it's like
even
at
then,
college
I don't know. It's just,
or even like clearly defined as adults,
yeah.
I would have been more than on board with the scene.
Maybe like down at the local Y.
Even then, I still wouldn't have, like, I mean, obviously the age part of it is a huge,
Yeah.
weird issue, but I feel like, you know how, like, there's the classic wet dream or whatever of, like, a girl sleepover and then they all get into a pillow fight and, like that
Yeah.
sort of classic.
Yeah.
That's what this felt like, where it's like,
Yeah.
there's just a bunch of naked girls running around in the high school locker room, hitting each other with towels, and they literally have clothes, like, falling and throwing clothes everywhere.
They do.
And it's like,
Yeah.
this shit doesn't even happen in real life. Like, it felt like a dream. And maybe that's the idea of it. I don't really know, but it just felt really out there. And like, it was maybe not the opening scene, but like the second scene. Still like the very, like, what, 5 minutes, if that, into the movie.
Yeah, when they start like really heckling her.
Yeah. That was a weird way to start the movie, I feel like.
Yeah, man, especially with, I mean, like I said, like for me, like listen, you can have like a full on, if this was again a group of defined adults, not in a fucking school setting, like if they were just like a house party and there was like an orgy going down, I'd be like, all right, this might be unnecessary, but all right, like I don't really give a shit. But I think it was just that whole kind of vibe, especially
casual
kind of looking
orgies.
at it through like a modern lens. Nah, like that's gonna get the pass for me. I didn't know what to expect, and the whole time I was like, "Yikes!" Like when I was watching it. But now let me go ahead and take this to a different place. What is this movie? What genre is it? And I'm gonna lead off with our really the guy who defines everything in life. Dan, what genre is this movie?
Do
You
I?
omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent motherfucker.
Omnidan.
Omnidan.
I think it's
That's when
horror.
Dan uses Omni Slash.
Yep. I use Omnisphere.
Oh,
Oh.
Yeah. Shout out. Please sponsor us.
It's horror, but damn, does it have a long ass build up to horror? There's a lot of romance, drama kind of stuff.
It's very slice of life.
Yeah.
Tommy Senpai?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, not at all. But one thing I found interesting, I feel like a lot of this movie to me was over the top, and I think we'll talk about some things a little bit, but the actress who played Carrie's mom, Piper Laurie, actually was convinced it was a dark comedy. And to this day, she still says it's a dark comedy and not a horror because her character was so over the top. She saw no way that it could have been horror because the mother is just way too religious and way too into it. And so tonally not horror. So I think to me it's horror, but it definitely hits kind of like Nico said, like a slice of life almost kind of film.
So for me, and I'm probably going to be the odd man out here, I sincerely don't think of this as a horror movie. I sincerely don't. To me, I think having something horrific in a movie does not equate to being a horror movie.
I agree. I agree with you.
There's nothing in this movie that is scary. Nothing. Particularly because Carrie, we see her psychic powers from the start. We know she's psychic. And yes, I mean, I don't know if I was supposed to be scared of her levitating that hose and spraying some people with water. I mean, I know some people got
I
electrocuted.
thought you were about to say levitating them hose.
She did that too.
No, reverse that.
Yeah.
But I mean, even to me, there's nothing scary in this movie. Not one aspect of this movie is scary.
Here's the thing. It doesn't have to necessarily be scary to us, but it can still be material that itself to the characters, like diegetically, would be horrific and scary. Like, I would be terrified if this was happening. Are you kidding me?
Well, I think though, to me, for something to be horror, it has to be setting out to scare you. Because, for example, there's a lot of action movies where the main characters are fighting creatures they're terrified of. But the film is made in such a way that we, the audience, aren't meant to be dialed into the horror aspect as much as we are to be dialed into the action
And
aspect.
That's actually why I said it's more of like a slice of life than the like high school romance aspect of it, although it is there. We just see it from the perspective of just kind of like a passive outsider, really, more than anything. And to the credit of the writers and the director Brian De Palma, that is an interesting choice for sure, and it's why we're having this conversation. But I think you can still be fairly removed from something as an audience and still consider it to be horror, personally.
I mean, I see what you're saying. I think my personal take is to lay it more on the steps of drama, slice of life type deal. Because let me put it like this. If Carrie didn't have psychic powers, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation. I think, and yes, like abuse and trauma are scary things, but I don't, like there was nothing in this movie to scare me, I guess. But that's my
fair.
take. So we've all kind of said what genre this is now, but in terms of some themes, I mean, what are some themes we can throw out here about this movie? You know, we can lead off with, I mean, the loss of innocence or innocence in general. I know, Nico, you can probably talk on that.
Yeah, so there is a very conservative, like beyond Victorian, comical, fundamentalist Christian overtone, not even overtone, but presence in this movie by way of Carrie White's mother, Margaret, played by Piper Laurie. as Margaret White. It's an overwhelming presence that we get from her. And to her credit, she fucking killed this performance. I thought she was absolutely incredible. In particular, because right now I'm watching through Twin Peaks and she's in that. And just the difference in range that she has is really well done. Really fucking well done. You don't see that very often. But regardless, the theme of innocence is just, it's hyperbolized and almost made violent in a sense through how we see the girls just mocking her, through how her mom literally tries to kill her. It's almost perverted in a sense.
Okay. Okay. Now, I guess we also have to take a look at just kind of the idea of somebody being, so traumatized, not only from their school life, but also from their home life. So, Dan, I'm going to ask you this. Do you agree with the idea that you posed before that this is so over the top that there's just no way this could have happened? Or do you think that's a valid representation here in this movie?
That what happened?
That, somebody would go to school and then literally all the students would be like that to her. The teachers, with maybe the exception of one, don't give a fuck. I mean, we literally had the principal or whatever.
Yeah.
He was like, I forget what he was calling her, but he wasn't calling her
Cassie.
Carrie.
Yeah.
Fucking Cassie.
He was calling her Cassie Wright, I believe, or something like that.
Multiple times.
The PE teacher corrected him, and then he just
Still did
kept
it.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then go home, and your mom is literally a psycho. I mean, is that so over the top to you? Do you think there's a little bit of believability there?
For me, it's definitely over the top. I had a hard time getting invested into this movie. It was probably about halfway or maybe 2/3 before I really got into the movie, because I felt like so much of it was just too much and unbelievable. One of the first couple scenes that we see, a couple minutes in, is this sort of locker room, wet dream kind of scene. And it's like, this doesn't happen. And it just felt weird. I'm like, why is one, like we were talking about, why is this here? Cognitive dissonance of the age and whatever. But I was just like, this doesn't happen. And then, yes, bullying exists. Absolutely. A million percent. Unfortunately, it exists. And it's definitely a huge problem. But literally everybody bullied her. I mean, her classmates bullied her. Within seconds, they were throwing tampons and all sorts of things at her. And I was like, wow, that escalated real quick, real quick. And then the teacher comes in, who turns out to be a good person, but the teacher walks in and fucking slaps her in the face. And then it's like, get your shit together. And then immediately it's like,
okay,
oh, I'm sorry, you didn't know what periods were. And it's like, wow, that teacher really escalated that really fucking fast too. And in a conversation with another teacher, Miss Collins, who slapped her, was like, yeah, watching her, be tormented like that made me want to join in and torment her too. Whoa, what?
Yeah, that was fucked up.
What? And then, like you said, the principal called her the wrong name 4 or 5 times in a row, even after being corrected 3 times. That wouldn't happen. The little kid riding the bike on the way home, randomly makes fun of her. Every single person in her life makes fun of her. Even the rando people that wouldn't exist. And so much of that was just too unbelievable to me. And I know it happens, but I feel like it happened too quickly in too small of a time frame. It was all too compressed together, I guess, where I was just like, whoa, this, I don't know. And events later on, too, aside from bullying, are just unbelievable to me. But
So, Nico, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's now, do you think everybody at this school disliked Carrie, or do you think it was more so that she was immensely bullied by one particular group of girls and no one else just really cared more so than anything else?
Yeah, I think that's 100% what it was. And to the credit of teenagers across the world. Like I was saying, no one is that just as a whole group of people, except for Trump supporters, that shitty. Teenagers are not going to be that completely animalistically hostile. At least all the ones that I've worked with are pretty fucking great. So shout outs to y'all. Like, I guess there's some fucking terrors out there, like, Dan was saying with bullying, but it's just, I don't know, man.
See, I'm actually probably gonna be the odd man out here once again.
Intriguing.
In actuality, for me, I think the bullying is actually believable to me a little bit, because
Okay.
there was a definite point in my life, particularly when I was, I guess, kind of really coming to grips with American culture and kind of learning certain things. Like, there would be things that I would do and I'd be like, oh, like, just this is how I know to do things. Like, this
Right.
is how things are done.
Yeah, that's fair.
And even down to like certain code words, like fresh. When I tell you fresh, what's fresh, Nico?
It's nice.
Yeah, not where I come from.
Yeah.
And that led to it basically being like, I was always the outsider. I was always, especially when I was younger. When I got older, I got more accustomed to shit. Like, by the time you guys got to know me, I was a boss playing.
Our privilege is definitely showing here, folks.
But like, it was a situation where I could see how somebody like Carrie, who the whole town is already kind of prejudiced against her because of her mom. Everyone knows that her mom is
That's
psycho.
true. I didn't take that into account. That's very true.
And so people are literally like, oh, that's so-and-so's daughter. Plus, we can kind of infer that the town itself is full of a bunch of, they're kind of fake Christians. Like, there's a point where Carrie's mom is like, let's pray the evil away. And this lady has like a drink. I'll drink to that. And then she realizes what she's doing. And then she's like, oh shit. These are the type of people who would totally, because again, Carrie is not necessarily born out of wedlock. I don't know the details all so much, but her father is not in the picture. And her mom is a psycho. That's already going to bring her down in people's eyes. On top of that, she's a quiet person who, her head is full of a bunch of lies that her mom has told her. And I can see how it starts out as being like weird, but I can tell you that being called a weirdo, especially when there's no one else to say, well, hang on, she's just quiet.
Yeah.
Being called a weirdo could amplify and escalate to the point where no one else gives a shit. And for some reason, some kids just get off on bullying her.
Yeah.
So I could totally see that. The one thing, though, is the principal not knowing her name doesn't make sense because he knows her mom. And he would at least get the last name right.
The last bit about believability is when there's this not slow motion, but just very long scene of Miss White and one of the other students very painfully and slowly just following a rope ever so tenderly, glacial pace, down to seeing where Chris and John Travolta are going to be pulling the bucket down, and like, nobody fucking takes that long. You see, oh, line here, line there, boom, like, come the fuck on.
Yeah, that took forever.
Also, very last piece there on what you're talking about. So Sue runs in and she sees that Chris and John Travolta are about to drop.
Starring John Travolta as John Travolta.
Are about to drop this bucket of blood on Carrie. And she's like screaming, right? And we don't hear what she's saying. It's kind of like the sound is kind of muffled and drowned out. Surely she would be saying, they're about to drop something on Carrie. Instead, the gym teacher like throws out Sue.
Also, they didn't hide that shit like even a little. They could have just fucking looked up and seen, oh, hey, there's a bucket and it's jury-rigged to something. Wonder what that's all about.
And we were kind of discussing before the pod, but that would take some real precise planning. She had to know exactly where Carrie would be standing.
Had to do some like ancient Egyptian trigonometry shit on this level. Like,
because Carrie wasn't even standing at the podium. She was standing back from the podium getting her picture taken.
She wasn't front and center. They like had Batman levels of preparation on this.
Yeah, it was wild. But sorry, I don't mean to go into it too much.
Hey, at least the teacher shoving Sue out the door saved Sue's life. I mean, she was like the only survivor, really. So
I really did like that moment. That was heroic.
And Sue was like one of the, I want to say that was heroic. And
that she saved her life?
She didn't know she was saving her life. Not at all. She was kicking her out of prom.
Yeah, she was kicking her out of prom. There's no heroics involved. That was before.
Oh, no, I was getting that scene mixed up with the bloodbath. Sorry.
I mean, no, like gym teacher was one of the first people to get
no,
marked.
That's not heroic.
In that she got like crushed.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
I mean, Sue was the only like good person.
Yeah.
Because like the teacher was like.
Actually, Tommy is a golden boy, and I will have no such slander on his name. He is a beautiful himbo, and I love him. He's a big dumb idiot, and he just kind of not falls in love, but he like actually genuinely likes Carrie by the end of it. And he's having fun. He's just a big dumb idiot. He's great.
So, and I don't want to get too into this, but as just a quick thought, the dudes in this movie, particularly the high school guys, they all suck in terms of
just the fucking worst.
In terms of, I guess, influence on the plot so much because they only ever do what the women tell them to do. Literally every single one. So I thought that was interesting. Not that I had a problem with it, because oftentimes we see women relegated to having no impact on the plot whatsoever. So I think it's fair ain't the right word, but I think it's fine to have a movie where kind of the opposite's true. But it was very interesting.
It's intriguing.
It is intriguing. But what else is intriguing is the story of Saint Sebastian. So Dan, inside of Carrie's house, we see a statue, and just from the iconography, you would assume it to be Jesus, but eagle-eyed practitioners would know that that's not the case. Dan, your eyes look mad eagle to me, sir.
Yep.
Tell me about
them eagle eyes.
You anamorph-looking motherfucker.
Yeah, it looks like a statue of like Jesus on the crucifix, but in reality, it's Saint Sebastian, who was shot with a bunch of arrows and killed. So I was really curious about that, and like I figured that had to mean something. So I was kind of doing a little bit of research because I'm not familiar with Saint Sebastian, and I thought it was really cool. So first and foremost, what I'm about to say doesn't really hold much merit because I also learned that the only real tie to Saint Sebastian is that when Carrie's mother dies, Carrie like slings a whole bunch of like kitchenware and knives and stuff at her.
No, she's also posed like it.
And she's posed like it too, right? From the knives and everything.
Yeah.
Similar to how Saint Sebastian was killed with arrows. And so in this case, we have knives being thrown at her instead of arrows. So that's really why they just chose, because apparently in the original script it was Jesus, and then they're like, oh, well, Saint Sebastian was shot with arrows, so let's do that instead. But
let's do the more stabby one.
Yeah. But upon reading about Saint Sebastian, one thing that I thought was really interesting was that Saint Sebastian is known to be, apparently, he is the patron saint of a holy death, which I thought was really interesting because we sort of have like the mother's plot of, she's super religious. She finds out that Carrie has these powers, and the mother thinks that Carrie's like the devil or the devil reincarnate or some form of that. So once Carrie comes back from the prom after all this shit happened, the mother tries to kill Carrie. And I kind of take that as like a holy death. Like her mother sacrifices herself to kill Carrie and to stop this demonic thing from getting out there and, causing evil, which I thought was interesting, kind of a parallel to Saint Sebastian, patron saint of holy death kind of thing. And there are one or two other things that could be ties in, but I thought that was kind of interesting.
I have a question real quick about Saint Sebastian. Was he also the patron saint of busting a nut?
Wow.
Because holy shit,
wow.
She looked like she was just having a climax of her life while she was getting stabbed there. Like, did you guys see that?
Bro, that's a
I'm not
Wild Boys
fucking
thing.
with
Wow.
you. No,
Wild Boys
I
thing.
swear to God, I am not fucking with you.
Wow.
She looks like she's moaning back and forth, going like, well, I'm not
she's
going to
dying,
vocalize.
Bro. You ever been
People
dying
don't
like that?
sound like that. What?
Nico,
No.
Nico. I'm gonna tell you this.
Actually, they do.
Nico, the French call an orgasm le petit mort, right? The little
Yes,
death.
I know that. I'm
Well, then the
well
big death
aware
must be a
of
bigger
that.
orgasm.
I'm well aware of the symbolism there. What I'm saying is that per the juxtaposition with Brian De Palma's train into a brick wall approach of no subtlety, it's too much. And there was already, like, we see the scene immediately before that. We actually have the confession from Margaret White where she says that, yeah, when I was having sex, I liked it. And so another note on the holy death thing is tying into the idea of the Le Petit Mort. I just completely botched the pronunciation, but you get what I mean. Because in death, she can finally actually, in a way that is acceptable, attain that.
I guess. And I think there's also a little bit of a theme of original sin as well.
Oh,
Because,
certainly.
Right.
Carrie was, the mother doesn't like sexuality and everything. The father left and all this kind of shit. It almost seemed like, I didn't quite get a good read on this, but it almost seemed like I couldn't quite tell if the father raped the mother, but then, or like started to, but then the mother was like, no, I actually enjoyed it, but like she didn't want it at first. She was like very against it, I think.
I think she was just ashamed of liking it. I could be wrong.
Maybe.
Nico, so that was my interpretation of it because it's weird, man. It's really weird. I looked online
Purity
because
culture is weird, dude.
well, it could have been an instance of marital rape, but I looked online and I at least couldn't find a definitive voice one way or the other.
I don't think she would like that, to be fair.
Well, that's my point. That was my argument, was that like when she said I liked it and knowing her whole thing about denying herself like anything sexual, I don't know. Like I
Do you
thought
think
personally
that was sort of like a male gaze kind of look into it? Like by having her say that, like, I liked it part of it, it was just some sort of way to give credence to that fucked up idea, maybe?
I think
I mean, I fucking hope not.
well, that was another thing where I was a little bit confused as to my assumption was that something had happened to the mother, particularly in relation to the father, that caused, her to be so repressed and like that caused something to happen. But she says it that he came back, drunk or whatever else.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, is this going where I think it's going? And then she was like, but then I liked it. And I was like, that's so weird. I couldn't,
Yeah.
that was another thing I really couldn't wrap my head around. I couldn't say. And I looked online to try to find out more. Couldn't find anything. And I was like, I don't know. To me, you can take that in kind of whichever direction you want to take that or interpret it, but it doesn't really have a massive, massive impact on the finality of the film.
Not really.
I don't think.
I think it mostly is just sort of not just that, but the fact that the mother doesn't, like sexual shit. And then she did like it, but kind of is ashamed, I guess, that she liked it. So it's just sort of that, again, original sin of,
Right.
Carrie carrying that with her. And so now she's
Carrying.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Killing Carrie for carrying on that sin. Yeah.
My wayward son.
So this is unfortunately another what would you do where this movie's about a bunch of high school girls, which is a category none of us fall into. So as for a what would you do, I'm going to flip it a little bit. I'm going to call out the only decent characters in this movie, and we're going to see which one of us is most like those characters.
Okay.
So, first off, who among us is most like, not counting Carrie, who among us is most likely to be, because none of you guys have psychic powers like me.
Damn it.
Oh, shit. Is that what you learned in your underwater philosophy courses?
That's what my thesis was on, underwater kinetics. So,
Oh, shit. Did you make bird people?
no, that was next semester. So, who's Tommy? Who is the lovable idiot of the three of us?
I feel like it's me.
It's you. It's you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's you. So now, let's say, who would be the PE teacher? Who would be the kind of person to,
Slap
look out for somebody, power slap somebody if necessary?
slap somebody.
That's what I'm gonna say. It was.
Yeah.
Who would power slap?
I guess that would be me, but I would
Yeah.
Would be.
I would figuratively power slap people.
Yes.
I wouldn't literally
You would
do
like
it,
put
but I would-
motherfuckers in their place.
Place.
yeah,
Yeah.
with words.
Yeah.
Yes, the word is deadlier than the slap.
Also, like, don't fucking hit kids. Which, again, cognitive dissonance, but yeah.
That was kind of wild to see from an American movie. I was like,
Yeah.
huh. But now let's go ahead and see. Does that make me Sue? Am I Sue?
I could see you having some kind of scheme like, yo, just take her to prom. I could see you having that kind of plan and that kind of like gears turning in your head.
You would have a keikaku like that.
Yeah.
Yo, my only thing was like, Tommy was kissing up on Carrie and Sue was like, attaboy. And I was like, wait, what? You guys have a really
I don't know
strong
if she saw
relationship.
the kiss though. I don't know if she got there in time to see that. Maybe she did.
She didn't? I don't know. Man, listen, man was like all
Yeah, he was
up
going
on
in.
her.
Yeah.
Multiple times was he on
Speaking of
her.
going in, I hate to be the one to do it, but we have to fucking talk about that scene in the car.
Oh, so now we're going to go ahead. Now that we've determined who we are and we're not any of these characters. So there's a favorite scenes time. I'm going. This is my favorite scene.
Okay,
It's your
fair.
favorite. Okay.
I lied. Go ahead, Nico. You can tell.
No. Please, after you.
No, I have a different favorite scene. That's why.
Okay, sure. This isn't necessarily my favorite scene thematically, but it is just
Yeah,
like
it is.
of the movie. It's just fucking insane. We see Chris and John Travolta as John Travolta. No, we see John Travolta as Billy, and the two of them are getting all hot and bothered, and Chris starts to perform oral on Billy, and you hear her saying rhythmically and clear as a bell, Billy, 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 as it's happening. And I'm just like, I didn't know they had ventriloquism classes like that, bro. Like, shit.
See, just another reason why it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And then, Dan, what happens after that?
And then, like, she says Billy, like, I don't know, 6, 7, 10 times, something like that. And then all of a sudden, she's just like, I fucking hate Carrie White. End scene. And it's like,
And
wow.
Billy goes, who's that?
What the fuck? Yeah. Just like complete fucking out of nowhere for him. No segue whatsoever.
I'm saying, like, could you just imagine, like, receiving and then all of a sudden just like, I hate this thing. Like, whoa, Jesus Christ.
You're like in bed with your girl and you're just like, I hate this random person just completely
Why?
out of nowhere. That would be terrible. Just completely ruin it.
I tried to like give credence to the scene. I was like, well, maybe like she just put her head down there to inspect and was giving him a little bit of, you know, some like a hand position.
Giving him a rhythmic inspection.
That's the only thing I think of because you cannot. No.
Motherfucker, no.
The way I took it was she was using her skills to influence him to do things that she wanted him to do.
Yeah, of course. Of course, that's what happened. Yeah.
But it was like, why are we also like watching this?
Oh, like she blew him so he killed a pig?
Yeah, because then he slaughtered some pigs. And I'm like, that's worth more to me than...
Yo, that is a dude
That's not a fair exchange.
who is literally led by his dick. And to be real, both of them are horrible people. Their relationship is horrible. And
They're just the worst.
they need to separate and grow up. But
Pity that'll never happen.
my favorite scene was what Dan talked about already, and he spoiled it at the start because he's Dan.
Yep.
The dancing scene between Tommy and Carrie, I thought was really, really great. And was reminiscent of the May Queen in Midsummer.
Interesting.
Yeah,
All the spinning and
100%.
yeah, and to both Carrie, and I won't spoil Midsummer in this review in case you haven't seen it, but check our review of it. It was Carrie was getting swept off her feet. She literally says, this is like a dream. It's perfect. She's got a guy that she finds attractive. You know, he's clearly into her. It's not even about the bet anymore. He's like, fuck it. Like, I actually think you're a good person. Like, I actually like you. I don't know if it was, you know, like leave my girlfriend for you type situation, but he liked her. And I guess this is maybe me coming at it from a little bit of West Indian culture, but yo, sometimes you just need to like go out and have fun. And like if you gotta
No
knock
other
boots, knock
cultures
boots.
have fun.
Nope. None.
I'm saying like, yo, if necessary, right? I'm not saying she would have, but if she asked for it, he might have had to loan her some sausage just for the night.
Are you fucking kidding?
Is that a West Indian thing?
It's a loan. Do you get
Can I
interest
borrow
on
you-
it?
We don't have sausage in my country. Would it say he would have, you know what I'm saying, I guess the term would be like some cane, like sugar cane. You give that, or cassava,
Okay.
the cassava, cassava root.
Okay.
You guys call it yucca, I guess here. So yeah, no, that is that. But enough of that. Dan, what's your favorite scene?
I'm gonna cop out and say just the whole prom scene, or not the whole, but like once she kind of flips and
Yeah,
kills people.
yeah.
Partially because, like I mentioned earlier, with the little audio, the music kind of montage thing, but also like the visual parts were cool. But it was also my favorite because the whole movie was leading up to that scene, and it
Right.
felt like it. And in a good way, but also not a good way, because I feel like 2/3 of this movie is just build up. So finally, like I was happy that it finally paid off.
Okay. So we're going to take a quick look at the critic review. And then after I tell you these numbers, I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys for the number, brief summary of what you liked, and an even briefer summary of the things you didn't like that maybe we haven't covered. But Carrie is sitting at a 93% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes. We got an audience score of 77%. Nico, where's this for you?
So, this is something that I just really felt uncomfortable watching, but like not in a way where I can sit in it and like appreciate it like I can with other films that we've reviewed. But having said that, I do really respect the movie for the achievements that it made in its visuals and its just overall branding and how concise I would say the narrative is. So I'm kind of ambivalent, but I think I'm going to give it a 75.
Okay. Dan, how about you?
I would do one better. I would do a 76. I think, like I kind of said, it's the whole movie is a build up. There's parts of it that are just unbelievable to me, a little over the top. But I also think that if I went into this movie not thinking it was a horror movie, I think I would have liked it a little bit more. And like I liked the ending. I thought that was cool. The last like 20 minutes or so was really cool. Yeah, 76 for me.
I'm going to be the odd man out once again. I'm going to give this one a 65. So part of what I like to see in a movie is some type of resolution or something. I didn't like the fact that Carrie went back to save her mom. I didn't like the fact that her independence was, I really liked the person she was becoming, you know? Like when her mom was like, everybody can see your dirty pillows. And she's like, they're breasts, mother. And I was like, yeah, you can tell her what those are.
Yeah.
And I joked around with Nico, but I said, yo, she like empowered herself within like 15 minutes. And Nico was like, yo, when you got the psychic powers, you could flex.
Yeah.
And that's real because I love how I liked the fact that we had a character who was basically kicked to shit. I didn't like that happened to her, but she empowered herself. She brought herself up. She fucking read.
Awesome.
Yeah, she fucking read shit, learned about herself. Like the whole thing about becoming more comfortable with her psychic powers was kind of an allegory. It was just being more comfortable with her body and growing up and becoming a young woman. And like,
And it sucks that the end for her was death.
yes, why did the end have to be death? That didn't have to happen.
Actually, you
And
know what? I'm going to bring my score down because of that. I don't like that.
it feels like such a fucking sucker punch for you to have this character. Because I'm gonna keep it real with you, right? I'm gonna keep it super real. If Carrie had just murked everyone and walked off on some boss bitch shit,
Would have been great.
Carrie's already iconic, right? Like Carrie's already an iconic character, but that would have been the next step up for me.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like fuck her mom, Fuck all the people in the school besides the gym teacher, Tommy and Sue.
Yeah.
And literally, that's how I feel about it. So this movie got me too angry, and I wasn't scared at all. Dan is right. If I didn't think of it as a horror, I might have liked it more. But that's what I give it. That's where it's at for me. But if you've got something to say to us, if you don't like my 65, go ahead. Drop us a line. I'm ready. My pen is in hand. Yeah, I use pens to write on Twitter. We're on Twitter and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're also on Facebook. Don't open that door. So yeah, that's been it from Dan, Nico, and Jus.
And would we recommend this film?
Wow. I was so angered.
Wow.
I didn't think about that.
You were angry.
You know what? This film does get a recommendation for me just for the cultural relevance that it holds, as well as I think the depiction of bullying is something that if people see it and they're disgusted by it, maybe they'll be less likely to do it. So I would recommend it. You too?
Yeah, I recommend it for pretty much the same reasons. I think, like you said about the bullying and kind of the thing you were talking about with sort of her coming into herself and becoming her and more powerful version of her, not just psychically, but her mentally, I think is an important message too. And I do recommend it. I enjoyed it well enough, but not a spoiler, but it's not a golden seal for me.
Yeah.
Not from me either. But Nika, did you recommend it? I didn't catch that from you.
I've been going back and forth. I think I would, just as a capstone of what horror film is. I think it is important to know the big ones, the heavy hitters. And as uncomfortable as I was with it, I still have to admit, like, this movie is iconic.
Mm-hmm. So that's been it from Dan, Nico, and Jus. I mean, if this movie told you anything, we always say it, but I'm going to say it again. Be kind to one another. Keep yourself safe. And please, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.